All right, guys, so we're gonna start in the kitchen now, and we're just gonna go straight to the sink. So one of the first things you wanna do, obviously, is just test the water. Test it on hot, test it on cold, make sure the water actually gets hot. If you can get a thermometer, it's really good to test the water temperature because you do need to verify that it's not hot enough to burn children. And while you're testing the water, you wanna watch for water and leaks coming out of here around the handle. You also wanna watch for it around the base and where the entire faucet turns down here. And then you want to take, if you have your stoppers, which you need to make sure they're present and they're not on this one, but you want to put a stopper in both sinks and get that starting to fill up. Now while that's filling up, you can come down here to the cabinet, and down below what you're going to want to be looking at is you're going to want to feel along all of these pipes and make sure nothing feels wet yet, because we're going to be feeling again later to see if we have any leaks. So while those are filling up, we're going to come over here and just turn on that real quick. There we go. The garbage disposal works great. All of our drain lines work good. You're going to have your shutoff valves in the back. Now you want to check with your property managers or whomever it is you're doing the inspection for. Make sure they want you to test those shutoff valves, because most of these have not been opened for years and years, or closed rather for years and years. And because they haven't been used, they're very likely to fail during your test. So make sure they want you to test those, because it is going to create a lot of extra work if and when they fail. Now once the sink is full, with one dry hand, you're going to pull both plugs, flip on the garbage disposal, and come down below and watch and feel for leaks, because that garbage disposal is actually going to pressurize the water down those drain lines, and I suggest doing that twice, although it's okay if you only do it once. Moving over here to the dishwasher, when you first come in the house, it's a good idea to do this part. You don't have to do this list all in order. You just need to reference the list to make sure you get it all done. So you want to pull the racks out, make sure they slide good, check on the bottom, make sure there's no melted plastic on the heater coil there. Just make sure everything is in place inside this dishwasher, and then while you're here, go ahead and just start a cycle and close it and get that cycle running. That's going to let you know later on. You're going to find out if there's any leaks, including under the sink where the dishwasher drains into the garbage disposal. Next is all the cabinets. So you want to open them up, you want to make sure all your shelves are there, you want to make sure all your pins for the shelves are there. Often there'll just be 3 pins in each shelf because somebody stole a pin for another shelf. You also want to wiggle all the doors and just make sure that your hinges are all tight. And also, to go along with the cabinets, you want to check to see that you do have toe kick in place, and if it is in place, you also want to check to make sure that the toe kicks are not rotten. One thing I left out is actually the underside of this cabinet. Any sink cabinet, you want to look at the bottom of the cabinet. They're often going to be water damaged, and this is the time that you want to identify that while it's vacant so you can get a new bottom in there. Onto the stove. We're going to turn your hood on. High, medium, low. Works on all 3. Test your light out. The light is good. You also want to come up and check the filter. Now whether this is a microwave that has a vent or whether it's just the range hood, they're all going to have these filters on them, so you want to make sure that is number 1 present and number 2 relatively clean. And if it's a microwave, go ahead and test out the microwave. I suggest, for example, right over here, there happens to be a jar in there, so I would just fill that with some water, stick it in the microwave, and make sure the microwave does in fact work, and test the microwave lights and test the microwave range hood option. Next thing you want to do, especially on electric stoves, is you want to turn all the burners to high. You also want to turn the oven on. You want to make sure it can handle that draw through the lines of having all of that. Also, your oven should have a light inside it, so you want to check and make sure that that light works right now. Now, the last thing that you have to check on ovens, if this one comes out, is an anti-tip device. You're going to find 2 styles mostly. One is a bracket on the floor that has a horseshoe cut into it that the foot slides under and can't come up. The other one's going to be a chain that screws into the wall and then screws in to the top of the range. And then you do want to test these drawers as well. Oftentimes they haven't been on their rails in forever. So you just want to pull that out and make sure that it's actually on the rails. Also, your drawers throughout the kitchen, you want to pull each drawer out. You want to make sure that they all slide nice and smoothly. And you want to look at the faces of these drawers, because oftentimes these faces get broken off, and prior handymen have come through and they basically just glued and stuck a bunch of extra nails and staples in those, and that doesn't last. So if you can identify that while the property is vacant, that's really the best time to get that done. Next, the freezer. When you check your freezers, if there's an ice maker, make sure that the ice maker works and makes ice. If there's a dispenser in the door, you also want to check that it dispenses the ice, and if it does crushed ice, make sure it dispenses crushed ice. You want to test the full functionality. You also want to test all of the shelves in the fridge and the freezer. For example, this one's broken right here. Now, who knows if this was done a long time ago or recently, but we can document it now so that we at least know the future tenant didn't do that. Same thing in the fridge. You want to wiggle all of these around and make sure they're all actually seated. Oftentimes these get broke and people just put them back and just sort of balance them in so it seems like they're good when they're not. But you've got like your meat drawer right here. That one's good. All these shelves are solid. Don't be afraid to put some weight on them and to put some pressure onto them, because this is the time when you do need to find out if they're broke. Now, your fridge also has an appliance bulb. You want to make sure that appliance bulb is on. Sometimes you'll have water filters down inside here. Sometimes they'll be under the fridge, or like this fridge, it doesn't have any at all. But if you do have a water filter and a water dispenser, you want to test the functionality of all of that. Now, there may be one or two very minor things that you want to look for in the kitchens. For example, if there's sometimes there's trim up here, or just any number of trims, you want to make sure that's all there. And you do just want to walk around and give it a good overall look. Look at the sides of the cabinets down here, make sure there's no water damage. But this is basically the whole list. So what I've done is I've walked you through and I've shown you my way of inspecting it, like my process, my order. But go by this list every single time and you won't miss anything.